Hey, this is Solid Snake, and you're listening to Droids Canada. So, pay some damn attention.
This is David Faustino.
Hello, this is Andrew Chalmers, the writer and doctor in Doctor Who Dark Journey.
This is Dr. Stevo.
Everybody, this is the Cavernator.
This is Inspector Gadget.
Hey, what's cracking, y'all? It's your boy J-Rock.
Good evening, folks. This is James Duval.
This is Jeremy Taggart.
This is Kim Possible.
I'm Chris Holden-Reed.
Hey, this is Pat Mastroianni from Degrassi.
This is the evil Dr. Bad Vibes.
Again, this is Messi Bear. And this is more from X-Men.
Hey, this is Andrew Cassess.
This is Sean Gunn.
Hi, this is Robert Carradine.
It's Tammy Stronach from The Neverending Story.
Hey, it's Zach Callison.
Hey, I'm DJ Jenny Rock.
And I'm Neil Young.
I'm Commander Shepard. Ralph Garman here. You're listening to Droids Canada. You've made an excellent choice. You have chosen wisely.
Warning. Listener discretion is advised.
That means there's a lot of fucking swearing.
Hello.
So then everyone, I'm just getting myself nice, comfortable, and situated here. Welcome to Nickel City Con, and the person whom you are here to see, David Naughton, everyone. Thank you. Now, I am Dan. I am with a show called Droids Canada. We are based out of near Niagara Falls. It's kind of right over the border. Now, the way that I kind of enjoy to do panels as well, it's all about you and it's all about Mr. Naughton. So if anyone does at any point have any question whatsoever, there's a microphone right in the middle aisle. As soon as you get to that, the floor is yours. Ask away anything that you'd like. Now, how I would like to start here is, looking up the, doing my research on Mr. Naughton, you see the actor-singer or singer-actor. Now, when you got your beginning, you started out doing both. You had a Billboard single that hit number 5 with Making It. For the TV show as well, the ABC sitcom. Now, when you started, was there one that you kind of preferred more to do? Were you looking more to get into music or into acting?
Well, I had, after I graduated from college, I went to the University of Pennsylvania, was an English literature major, probably because they didn't have a drama major, and I knew at that sometime during the course of that experience at Penn where I was doing plays and things, but I'd always been involved in music. I'd done musical theater. That was like my first experience in high school. The High School Musical was really one of the first times I'd been on stage. So when I went to drama school after Penn in London at a place called the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, which was sort of a misnomer because they didn't have a lot of music really going on. We could study voice, which was sort of the thing. So I always had plans to pursue music or musical theater. I particularly enjoyed musical theater, as crazy as it is to go and see. Is, people are talking and then they burst out in song, and you're like, wow, this is what an interesting way, concept of musical theater. But they are so much fun to be in, particularly live. If you have music, either if it's an orchestra sitting there, or I've also done shows to tracks, which is also an interesting challenge, primarily because it's live. And those tracks, if those tracks go a little haywire, or they don't come in, or the person that's clicking the tracks to get it ready for your cue, there's anything can happen on stage, which is really kind of an interesting thing. So when I got through with drama school, I returned to New York. I wasn't really planning on starting in New York, but there wasn't really. My parents were living up in Hartford, Connecticut, where I grew up, and so I just knew I had to go to the big city, and I was auditioning for shows, and got my first job with the New York Shakespeare Festival. They were doing a production of Hamlet with Sam Waterston, whom you all would certainly remember and know well, was doing Hamlet. And so this was a huge cast, and they were doing the uncut 4-hour version in Lincoln Center, and that was my first acting gig. And I always made the joke of going, if they had most costume changes in a Broadway show, I'd be, nominated, because every time there was something going on, I was a member of every army and learning how to, just basically doing live theater and getting my equity card, which was like kind of a step in the direction of becoming a professional actor. And then it was during the course of that run where I went in for some commercial auditions in New York, and I landed this Dr. Pepper gig, which turned out to be a 4-year I did 3 commercials the very first year, and you can imagine this, 3 commercials, a 60-second and 2 30-second commercials, and the idea was a Pied Piper concept. This is back in the late 70s, and this shoot was 22 days long, you can imagine. You know, you can do films, and I've been in a couple of films that didn't take quite 22 days to shoot. And this was, as I said, a 60 and 2 minutes of commercial time.
That brought me to my next question, being the face of Dr. Pepper. Like, as soon as I saw, I click on the first, oh my God, I'm a Pepper, you're a Pepper, he's a Pepper. And so you see this, and I see, you have one with Mickey Rooney. How many of those commercials did you actually do?
Well, yeah, the very first, the first 3 that I did was, basically just an audition that, when you're auditioning for things, you have an agent and you're trying to impress them by saying, yeah, I can do all these special skills, which sometimes you kind of make up, thinking I'll never really be asked to do any of this stuff, but I just wanted her to know. And so she said, how good are you at dancing? It says you checked your dancer. I went, I did? Did I check that? So these auditions were pretty involved, similar to just a classic Broadway show audition where you have a number and you're doing the routine that they're teaching you. And it just so happened that, I made it down to the final 3 or 4 guys and was chosen to do that. So, and we did this 3 the first year and 4 the next, and so I continued to get these 4 one-year contracts with Dr. Pepper, which not only involved the commercials, the on camera, but also personal appearances. I mean, I was way deep into the Dr. Pepper thing, but they were emerging as trying to be, competing with not just being a regional soft drink was the whole idea, and it did. They went to number 3, and then it became a whole other thing. Now it's called the Dr. Pepper Snapple Group. They're traded on the stock exchange. It's a big deal. But when I did them in the 70s, as I say to kids, they're going, when did you do this picture? I have a Dr. Pepper picture at my table. And I said, well, back before carbonation. I was a pepper guy. But it was really it was a unique experience. There's a lot of time in front of a camera, which is helpful in terms of relating to a camera, being comfortable in front of a camera. And these were musical spots. I recorded the song, the jingle. In fact, I had to audition for the jingle part. They were going to have me lip syncing to someone else's voice, which I went, wait a second, that's unusual for me. So I got a chance to have to go in and audition for the jingle itself, which I recorded, which was really kind of my first experience at recording. So cut to a couple of years later, and I'm doing the series called Making It, which didn't, but it was a spin-off of Saturday Night Fever for Paramount on ABC that we premiered after Mork and Mindy. As you remember, Mork and Mindy was a huge hit for ABC, and we came in right after. That was our lead-in. We went, we're made, this is happening. We lasted 2 episodes at 8:30. It was just after Mork and Mindy. Then they moved us. And they moved us up against these 2 shows, The Hulk and Different Strokes. And that was the end of Making It. But what happened was I got a chance to record that song too by basically it was the theme song for the TV show. And again, it was I had so much confidence in going, yeah, I can do this. The show is about, the theme of the show is basically making it and, trying to make it, making it. And so I said, it's my perspective, maybe I could sing the song. And so I got a chance to meet with the songwriters. And these were 2 guys that were very happening. They were doing Peaches and Herb, Reunited, and Shake Your Groove Thing were their hits. Gloria Gaynor was also on their label. And so they had this song, Making It, that they had the 4 seasons ready to record. And I got in there again, and got a chance to try to record it. And we did over the course of the Thanksgiving weekend, knocked out this 7-minute version of Disco Song.
That song, after the show, is still kind of living on. It appeared in Meatballs in one of the dance scenes.
Well, it was
there's some groovy tunes that they're playing, and
part of the
Fame
Paramount
as well.
catalog. So with Paramount owning it and having, not owning it, but certainly having it in their repertoire of songs they could use for other projects. They had Meatballs, and there was a scene, So many people, and the jacket used to change. You used to go from the hit TV series Making It. No, wait. from the movie Meatballs, and it was in a number of compilations. So that was one of those little things that continued to just reappear. An RSO, compilation album, and then when they were coming out with CDs. So it was really kind of fun, and I got to do, Rockin' New Year's Eve with Dick Clark and be on American Bandstand. These were shows that, I'd seen as a kid and never experienced or thought after my classical training at Lambda that I'd be on American Bandstand. But my point to all young actors really coming up is don't think you've got a plan that you're going to be able to stick to. The way your career goes is like the wind in terms of how it's going to take you. And that was kind of the experience I had with this particular film, for which I'm known, is that, I had an opportunity to meet John Landis, who happened to be a pepper. I mean, for all I know, this guy, he was drinking Tab by the case. You remember Tab, how nasty that stuff was? But yeah, in fact, he had it flown over to London, because you just couldn't get Tab in England while we were shooting the show. And he was a Tab drinker. I'm like, well, I'm going to try to convert him to being a pepper. And that didn't exactly happen, but he was aware of the commercials. And we have done a couple of panels over the years where he said that these were, he wanted a couple of likable guys that you didn't, that you were going to be able to relate to. And having seen me in these commercials that only took 30 seconds or 60 seconds, he thought this was a likable character. Let's see how he does in makeup. And so I had an opportunity to meet him. Really, it was one of the most informal auditions I've ever had in my life. Believe me, when you're doing my commercial campaign, you can't believe that you actually get cast in a commercial campaign, because there's like 10 people from the agency there, plus the client, Dr. Pepper. They all have their input in who they're going to choose. Everybody has a different idea, and somehow they pick people. That's how we did the casting for those commercials. It just was so difficult to actually get the job. Well, this movie came along. It was John Landis sitting in an office in jeans and like a t-shirt, young guy. We were about the same age, he's like a year older than me. And he had the success of Animal House and the Blues Brothers. And so now he got a chance to do the movie that he wanted to do. And this was a screenplay that he had written when he was 21 years old, working as a production assistant on Kelly's Heroes over in Europe, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movie, Kelly's Heroes. John was a PA on that movie, like just a goofy kid looking for coffee, and basically came upon the idea of writing a werewolf script, which, as I said, he did. And he didn't change it much. I mean, the script we shot was the movie he wrote when he was 21, and there we were in London making this movie.
So, enter John Landis. He has this, Animal House. He has Blues Brothers. These are
Kentucky Fried Movie,
comedy classics. So you get this audition. What kind of mindset do you go in when you see a script that, is this a comedy? Is this a horror?
Well,
how are they going to spin this?
You don't get to see the script when you meet a guy like this. He has this project, and I had a meeting. It was a one-on-one at his office at Universal, which is always intimidating because you have to drive through the lot and they direct you to where to park. Then you get out with a map and you're walking across the lot looking for the offices. And there's a lot of trepidation building up to, gosh, I'm actually here on the lot. This is really wild. And so when I didn't really know what to expect other than I didn't really know what his project was, but he was interested in meeting me based on the commercials primarily. So when I got in to meet him, this guy comes out and it was like, when are we going to start? There's this young guy, and he was the one. He was the guy. And we had a very informal, very easygoing, laughing, because he's a very funny guy, chat. I told him about my experiences, of how I had actually gone, not in the moors, but I'd ridden my bicycle in Western England and Ireland when I was a student, an acting student, but I was doing it on a backpack on a bicycle. He goes, well, these guys are actually backpacking across these moors, and there's two guys, and they come upon this werewolf. What do you know about werewolves? They go, not a lot. But he says, well, one of these characters becomes one. And he says, I'll tell you what, I want you to read the script. And he writes down the phone number to the office. He says, call me tomorrow morning after you've read this. Again, not your typical kind of audition. So I took it with me, and I read it, and it was indeed a good read. two guys backpacking, and you know, the byline is just like, David gets attacked by a werewolf. It starts a transformation. So you don't really know what that involves. A little did I know how that was going to impact me and my life in the next few coming months. And so the next day I did call Johnny. He goes, well, do you want to be a werewolf? And it was really that simple. So what he needed to do, and which I found out later, was he was casting the two boys, as I call them, the two youths, before he even got the financing together. Because Rick Baker needed as much advance time as he could get to start on the molds and getting all the prosthetics built. So he said, I got to get you right over to Rick Baker's office. Here's his address. And you know, Rick Baker now, as everybody knows, is one of the world famous makeup artists. I think he's won 6 Academy Awards. Well, he won the first one for this film. But before that, I mean, nobody really knew who he was. And Rick was basically renting garage space, if you can imagine, in the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles. Real low key, you could barely even find this address. It's just like rented garages. And one of them, you pull it up and there's all these guys, building stuff. And that's how the makeup began.
So you always hear, fans, we always hear Hollywood stories about being in makeup, and so-and-so had to spend 8 hours each day being done in makeup to do this role. How long, like during the transformation scenes that you had, how long was that process to be able to do that? Because that was, groundbreaking, for the time.
Oh yeah, it was. Initially the initial makeup, just the process of getting the molds made. I think they showed and they recorded that, and I think you can see it. I remember looking at it, but I couldn't watch it because I go, oh yeah, I remember that. It would sort of start with your arms, and it's basically a vat of alginate, which is that quick drying stuff that basically dentists use to make molds of your teeth. Well, they were using it to make molds of my legs and my arms, and then I had to do my entire head about 5 different times because there were different processes of expression that Rick wanted to use. Although, now with your mouth open and a big growl and hold it, and this stuff is going on your head and it dries, and then they put like a cast over it, so it's it's just, you can't believe what you're going through. And before I even started, I said, so have you done this before? And they went, yeah, once. I went, oh, good. So it's safe. Oh, yeah. I mean, this was all new stuff, new groundbreaking kind of experience. And so that was just the preliminary stuff. This was sort of like in October, and then they started working on the makeup. We didn't get to England until February and started shooting, and then Rick brought all his stuff from LA, literally in like suitcases, if you can imagine, and brought it through customs in England, with like body parts and arms and legs and wolf heads, and somehow got it through just as a tourist, because the difficulty was getting these work permits in England were so difficult. They had scouted locations. We were almost going to make an American Werewolf in Paris before that other thing was made, and because the difficulty was getting work permits, and there were only 4: John and Rick, Griffin Dunn, and myself, and they were going to, basically deny John the chance to make this film, where everyone else, the entire crew and all the rest of the actors were all, English and British, and they obviously made the right decision and said, oh, okay, we'll let you make this film, but not until you've seen some other actors for the roles you've already cast. So that was something John had to do, was hold auditions for the roles that we were already in and already having the molds made of, but just to comply with the British equity rules.
So then, whose makeup application was more intense? Would it have been yours or Griffin's?
Oh yeah,
with his
hands down.
Many stages of decay that he went through.
Well, yeah, Griffin and Rick likes to tell the story of how much of a problem Griffin was in terms of really complaining about the fact that this was not very flattering. This makeup. Well, that's in the script, In fact, Rick likes to tell a story about Griffin the very first night that we're working with the attack. This is the attack scene on the moors, and the wolf head comes into frame and attacks Jack, and I see it take off and come back. Well, he said to Griffin, there are only 2 of these heads, so you got Wheezy on his head. I'm gonna It's basically an arm-operated thing. I'm going to come in and just sort of get at your shoulder, but just be aware that these things, his teeth are, fragile. Rick was trying to protect his build, which took months, you have to remember, and all the hair that's being layered. Sure. Take one, Griffin practically rips the head off of Rick's arm. I mean, just trashes the wolf head, and Rick is pissed. So take two, Rick really attacks Griffin, and it's like, ow, this thing hurt. So the idea was, don't mess with Rick's stuff. But that was the part that was only the beginning for Griffin. And of course, each time that you see him in the show, he gets more and more decayed, to the point where at the very end, it's a puppet that Rick has built, and it's in the movie theater as a puppet, and Griffin's behind the seats, basically voicing the character of the puppet, and I'm working with the puppet. And I said, I used to do like, Griffin, I think he's doing a little better job than you did, Jack. We were just goofing with each other the whole time. And John Landis is a very funny guy. He would always like to do practical jokes throughout the movie.
Did you know Griffin before? Because you guys had some amazing chemistry.
No, that was one of the things about the film that seemed to work. About every challenge that the film basically faced seemed to work out. One was the chemistry, the relationships between Griffin and I. We lucked out. Jenny Agutter was a really good sport about being the only girl in the movie, knowing all the guys had the crush on Jenny, and we look and see what scenes were coming up. Ooh, got a scene with Jenny. And she was a particularly good sport as well in the making of this film. Everything you see in the film was actually shot. It wasn't. There's no trickery. There's no camera. One of the fun things I like to just talk about is there was a scene in Piccadilly Circus where just a big car crash right at the beginning of this car crash, which we didn't get permission to shoot. They wouldn't stop. They wouldn't close Piccadilly Circus, which is, if you've been there, there's 5 major streets coming into this circle. So there was no way they were going to close it. So they said, well, we'll just have to sneak this shot without permission. And of course they did at dawn on one particular shoot day. And I remember getting up just to go down there and watch this thing happen, because it was, really we weren't supposed to be there. And so they were able to get up on the roofs of all angles and had like 5 cameras and stuntmen waiting for a cue with radios. And on action, they all converged on Piccadilly Circus, crashed into each other, yelled cut. You'd hear everybody go, got it, we got it, because that's a wrap. And then boom, like in 2 seconds, it was just gone. It was just, what just happened? Did we just see a major accident?
How much practice do they need to do with that? Because it seemed like perfectly done.
Yeah, that part. Well, then they had built a set to look like Piccadilly, so they could do what's known as inserts. All the close-ups, all the little stuff, all the car coming up, and so to build the scene to be much longer than. But the actual master itself was just planned on paper, and then you're here. On action, we're going to go. You guys do that. And it was pretty neat, One of the cars I took from the crash, and he banged it out. I said, yeah, it's fine. So I drove it for the show. This little Mini riding on the other side, going, wow, this is so different. I don't know if you've ever driven in England on the other side of the road, on the other side of the car. It's always a bit of a challenge.
So then in Piccadilly Circus, one thing that rewatching the movie that I noticed. First, you have the subway death scene where there's the English gentleman who's on the escalator, and right when he hears the roar, there's a sign that says "See you next Wednesday."
Right.
The live orgy, and then come the theater scene, which is at "See you next Wednesday." That's in Piccadilly. Was that an actual sign and place, or was that built in for the movie?
Oh no, that's all. John Landis. If you'll notice, See You Next Wednesday is a theme that appears in most of his films. You'll see it in Kentucky Fried Movie. Hey, look what's playing. See you next Wednesday. I don't know anything more about that, if he had actually written a script called See You Next Wednesday, where it was a punchline of a joke, but it appears there. And, so that was one of the great, we had a great production designer who made all these signs. When you're out on the moors and you look at the little towns that don't really exist, Proctor and and Leicestershire. His name was Les, and so he called the town Leicestershire, 8 miles that way. So there were all these cool little props that we all wanted to get, and none of us could get, particularly the pub scene, the pub sign, the slaughtered lamb. That was the coveted thing to get as a trophy for the film, which John got, of course, and none of us got to get. Rick was going to give us some of the makeup stuff, which none of us wanted, But particularly because a lot of it's rubber, and it decays, and it was, after having worn it, I never wanted to see it again. He goes, but I'll make you teeth. Want some new teeth? Yeah, okay, give me a couple of wolf teeth and I'll wear them. But, one of the things that never is used anymore, particularly, are the lenses. In that one scene where I'm in the hospital bed and I open my eyes, and it's a quick scare, but it made the audience jump, which always was fun to watch from the back of the theaters. There were a couple of scares throughout the show that I knew people would literally jump out of their seats, and they did. But I wanted to just mention these lenses are the glass lenses, scleral lenses. It took like a tool, a suction cup to put in your eye, and these were painted, wolf yellow, of course. And you're only supposed to wear them for 10, 15 minutes, get the shot, get done. But nothing works in 15 minutes on a film set. So I'm in there with these lenses for an hour, going, are we ever going to shoot this scene? And so they don't use glass lenses anymore. It doesn't really help your eyes.
We have a question.
Questions?
Gentleman in the front.
I've heard that American Werewolf in London cost you the Dr. Pepper gig. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. Did you hear the question? I didn't, so I'm going to have to go to the next question. No, let's see. He asked if the werewolf movie cost me my Dr. Pepper deal, but no, actually, and somebody thought that was. Remember, I don't know where that was. It was Wikipedia or somebody wrote it. But no, actually, after 4 years, it's sort of like college. I thought I was ready to graduate out of the Dr. Pepper thing, and it was my own choice, just because. And I thought about it later, afterwards, maybe 10 years ago. I went, I probably could have been a Pepper guy for about 10 years instead of 4. But I was just sort of done. I was so known as that. It wasn't like I wanted to do other commercials, but I didn't just want that as the only sort of thing that I was able to be cast in. Because, it's a double-edged sword. You continue to get, more compensated, but you're being compensated for all the work you're not going to be able to do as well when you do a project like that. It was a different time in the 70s, when these commercials were being done. There was this real distinction between if you're a film actor or a television actor, or if you would never do commercials, or certain film stars would only do commercials in Japan and be paid in cash, and you'd never see those commercials. There was this whole stigma about that. Nowadays, it's like anything goes, And it was the same with recording. After I got to do this recording of making it, it was very difficult to be considered a singer and or are you an actor? Or I'd be asked the question. I go, why can't you be doing it all? It's all part of entertainment. It's all that sort of. Of course, now people getting record deals and TV movie deals and 3-picture deals. It's all seemed to be combined. But at the time and back then, it was a very different stigma.
It's kind of odd though, because back in the time, you have musical theater where you have the acting, you have the dancing, you do have the singing as well. Where it's all in this genre is all boxed into one amazing little package. But then when you move in towards film or in towards TV, they do have that separation. Well, back from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, they did, and and there were even variety shows. Remember that was big in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Musical variety shows, which I had been approached in doing. To sort of incorporate all this stuff. I go, but how do you do a horror thing? And in fact, I'll just tell you a little story about, we were doing some of the promotional tour for the film when it opened in Europe. So I was sent over to Germany to do some publicity. And so I was on this show, which was sort of like the Tonight Show for Germany. There was this guy who since passed away. His name was Blackie Fuchsberger. He was like the Johnny Carson of Germany. So I was supposed to be on a show. It was live TV. It was live going out to the surrounding countries in a huge theater. There was probably 1,000 people in the audience. So Rick Baker was going to be on the show as well. So Rick was doing Greystoke in London. He flies into Germany. I fly over. We're getting ready to do this show, and they go, well, "You're going to do a makeup, right?" And Rick goes, "A makeup?" on him that takes 6 hours? No. I'm here to talk about it. We'll have a clip and film. And they go, no, that's not what we want. We want you to do it. So they talked Ricky into driving around because he didn't have any stuff with him. We drove around all these like local little theaters and makeup stores and shops and theater departments, pulling stuff off the shelves. And he basically did a makeup of me with just half my face sort of torn off, if you can imagine, just sort of ripped, and the other half regular. So I went out on the show in profile and did this interview with this guy, Blackie Futzberger, who was in on the joke, of course. And he would talk to me and then translate to the audience, ask me a question, translate to the audience. So the whole time I was in profile until the very end. He goes, so did you have any weird facts from the experience of doing this movie? I go, well, I get this toothache, and I turned, and the audience freaked out. I couldn't believe. They were scared and screaming, and people running. Because I had this tear from Rick Baker, who was like, hey, sitting, watching this. And apparently their switchboard lit up. I remember seeing this guy the next day going, you won't believe how people were calling up, complaining how they, were not expecting this to happen on the Blackie Futzberger show, that someone had torn off his face. So Rick was pretty darn good at it, as you can tell. It was the first Academy Award that he won. They created the category of special makeup because of The Howling was also out that year. In fact, we were racing to get released, both our film and them as well, and some similar effects. In fact, Rick apparently was working or was consulting on The Howling because they were in production before John got the financing together for American Werewolf. And when he heard Rick was working on another werewolf film, he was so upset because they had made this long pact. When I get the movie right, when I get the money together, you're going to do it, right? He goes, yeah, whenever that is. And of course, John got the green light and found out Rick was working on some other show and pulled him off that right away. And the rest is history.
So was the German show any bit like the Saturday Night Live skit, the Sprockets, Dieter's Dance Party?
No, it was just, it was kind of, as I said, live TV, really fun. We freaked out the audience. It was crazy. One other just another story about this movie. People have asked me about the wolf cage, and then the wolves. Yes, real wolves, owned by somebody privately. You can imagine they had these. You can't train them. We had this set. It was basically a set that was built to be the cage, and it was getting dark. And I said, "This will be a one-shot, one-take deal. What do you want to do here?" And they said, "Well, you're going to wake up, and then you have to get out. When you see where you are, you're going to have to get out. You have to go up and over the back if you can do it." I went, "I'll try. We'll see." I said, "What about the wolves?" And they go, "Well, they've been fed." And that was about the extent of it. So there were these 3 wolves, and they said, "No fast movement, no loud noises." I go, "Well, I'm not exactly going to take my time getting out of here. So, let's just." So they were just sort of standing off the handlers, which didn't exactly. There was nothing they were going to be able to do. I could tell. So it was really a one-take kind of situation. Got up, saw the wolves. They started to come toward me, and I went, "Okay, time to get out of here." And that was that. One take, thank you. And as you can see, if you watch it, the set starts to pull apart. I don't think they built it thinking I was going to be climbing all over it. It was more decorative. And so it almost literally, the cage part started to come off the wall. And I thought, this is not going to be pretty, as I crashed to the floor. But it worked out. As I said, got up and over there, one take, and never to be seen again by those wolves.
Yeah, so when they if they remaster the movie, they won't be CGIing like Ghost from Game of Thrones into any of those scenes?
No, they there were other scenes that he was saying, "How can I use these wolves again?" I go, "I don't know, John. Maybe chasing you around." But this is your one time you got to use them.
Just like tie some stakes to your back to really get that authentic speed running around?
Yeah,
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if anybody else had any questions, otherwise I'll just...
How about the dream sequence when you were eating the deer?
Yes.
What was...
Well, just talk about it?
What did it taste like?
The deer thing, which was pretty, creepy, I forget what the stage blood is that they just soak it in. It doesn't have a particularly great taste, but it's supposedly the consistency on a piece of, ribeye, boneless, that you think you're going to just do one take in, and it always takes a little longer. But that was about it. A little gruesome. And then there were scenes like in the zoo itself. I always go back to the zoo because it was not the most fun time. First of all, it's March. It's like 45, 50 degrees. You're scantily clad in the zoo. So we're shooting in the zoo, the scene in which I grab the coat and I'm running across and grab the coat and take off. Well, I look out and I see all these people. I go, why do we have extras all the way up there? And they went, those aren't extras. The zoo's open. I go, come on. Well, we were supposed to be done at about 9 a.m. and obviously it always goes longer. And so they opened and we're just shooting. So never mind. I went, oh, never mind. Yeah, you're not naked. So that was going on. They didn't tell obviously the little boy with the balloons. That was one scene. But the lady that I come out and I see, she was just, atmosphere that day, extra, working. She had no idea what the scene was about. They just told her, walk down here, stop. A man's going to come out from behind the bush, say something to you, and then disappear. And you just, if you look startled, that's great. You don't have to say anything. It's fine. They didn't say, oh, by the way, they'll be naked. And true British fashion, she's like, you're looking up. You went, okay, take two. You could actually look at her, But she was being very discreet and modest. So we got 2 takes out of that. And then, it's just so weird because you're there and you do your shot and it's in the context of the film, so it's the world of the movie. It makes perfect sense. But this naked guy is trying to get back to his apartment and not sure why he won't cut. When they yell cut, you're just a naked guy standing there in the zoo, kind of going, hey, and they come running out with blankets, and you kind of feel stupid. And Landis would always be mercilessly funny, making comments with a speaker. Okay, on this tape, and I would never listen to him. So there was a lot of fun going on while we're making this movie. It's also helped to be away from Hollywood. We're over in England. We're shooting this film like it's our own little movie. We were very comfortable with what we were doing. We had the opportunity to come up with stuff, ad-libs up on the moors and out in Wales where we were shooting to be the moors. When we come upon the slaughtered lamb, Griffin Dunn and I would come up with some ad-libs. They'd either be in or not. John would hear it on the track and laugh and go, I'm saving that. So, there was that sort of collaboration going on. And overall, it was a fun 10-week experience.
You mentioned earlier, anything can happen in theater. Do you have a story about the most interesting thing that happened?
What happened in theater? Well, there was one that I'll never forget was when during the course of Hamlet, they go, well, Hamlet was, a 4-hour play, and you spent a lot of time off stage waiting for cues, dressed in your next outfit. And so what I learned from the experience of Hamlet was I learned how to play 7-card stud in the green room with all the other actors. Now you can imagine a table full of actors, one's a ghost, one's a warrior, one's a witch, and so we're all dressed, we're playing, and we're learning. I'm learning, so you basically are paying to learn if you know poker. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have folded, I shouldn't have called, I should have what? So I just remember this one night we're playing, and I'm dressed as like 2 outfits ago. I've got on these pants and a white t-shirt, and I'm winning the biggest hand I'm winning a hand. The 7-card stud, I got like 4 kings, and everybody's calling. There's this big pile of cash in the middle. All of a sudden, the green room door opens, and this guy goes, Naughton! And I look, and I listen, and I realize, oh shit, it's the Ophelia scene, and I'm a pallbearer where I'm taking dead Ophelia up on stage while Hamlet's going, who is this that comes? Of course, nobody's coming because I'm in the green room by poker. So I don't have time to put on my black cloak, and I just run down there, and Ophelia, this actress, is standing there, lying down, and they're all waiting for me because it takes 4 guys to carry her. And she looks at me and goes, you're in trouble. So I pick up, my part of the stretcher, and we're walking up, and now I'm in a white t-shirt, And there's 3 guys in cloaks who are waiting, going, oh man, you are a douche. We get off stage and there's Sam, and he's talking. He talks the entire movie, come on. I mean, the entire play. Hamlet, 4 hours uncut version, it is an enormously long part. Not the longest part of Shakespeare. Does anyone know what the longest part of Shakespeare is? That would be Iago. Okay, so Sam, finally the procession comes and there I am. Well, the stage manager's in the back of the house. So he doesn't know, he just knows where's the procession. This was like 4 cues ago. We come up from the bottom of the stage. So he sees me in a white t-shirt. And so I get this note as the curtain comes down, Naughton, please see the stage manager. So I have to go to the stage manager and he goes, where were you? And I had to, and everybody in the poker room was going, don't tell him we were playing poker, we'll never be able to play here. So I gave him the old, I was in the bathroom and I couldn't hear the speaker. And so he goes, well, you have to go and apologize to Sam Waterston for holding him up on stage. And I was sweating that one out. And this was between shows. We had 2 shows on weekends. Can you imagine? 4 hours. Sam would go take a nap, wake up and do the evening show. So it was the entire day in the theater. So I waited until a half hour for the evening show and I knocked on his door. And he goes, yes. I walk in and he said, I want to apologize for this afternoon. He goes, for what? I said, for, during the procession scene. What about it? Oh, nothing. I just wanted to apologize. He didn't even know I was late. He didn't get it. So I got through that. And that was one of those things that I remember, whatever you do, you cannot be outside the sound of that box, which is what's going on stage, because things happen. Never mind. That was the end of that.
Sure.
The scenes shown in the theater for See You Next Wednesday, were those also shot by locals?
I'm not sure. Well, there was the porn scene in the porn theater.
Yeah.
That was shot by John. Because the dialogue is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
You listen. He's parodying a porn film dialogue, the script. But what's interesting is that was the first day of shooting. Now you can imagine the crew, and the crews never read scripts. They don't know what the script is. They're just, hey, I got a movie with John Landis, and we're going to start and working and stuff. So the first day, we're shooting this porn scene. And so half the crew wants to quit going, I don't know what this movie is. But I'm off this show. And they're going, no, you don't get it. This is just, and he was pretty crazy. Because, as I said, it was the first day of shooting, and he had auditioned people for the roles. And they were actors that came in and had to say those stupid lines, which will go by you if you're not watching or listening. But it's supposed to be obviously dumb comedy in the midst of this, what's going on out in the audience of that porn theater.
Just maybe we should shock him.
Yeah, electric shock. That was one of the best written scenes, I always thought, was when they're all told, the victims are telling me how to kill myself. And it's, and they were all pretty good. One of my favorite ones to see was down, the bums are down by the Thames River, and we're shooting late at night, and I wasn't working, but I just wanted to go down there because it was so eerie, and it was just so well shot. I mean, the production value for the show is particularly good, I thought, with all the scenery that you can see. Plus, you have London as a backdrop. I think it's what makes the film continue to sort of be, I don't know about current, but it certainly plays today, is that London hasn't changed much, The green, the the red double-decker buses are there. The cabs are all the same. All the Piccadilly and Trafalgar Square, they're all there. So you can see the film and think that, and you can go to London still, as people do, and go visit some of the locations that are very similar. So we had that going for us.
Anyone else with questions?
So come by my table, say hello. It's been my pleasure to talk about this. I appreciate it. Thanks very much, everybody.
David Naughton, everyone.
Thanks so much. That's really helpful.
I drink Dr. Pepper, don't you see? 'Cause it's the perfect taste for me. That original taste, is making peppers everywhere I go. There's boating peppers, toting peppers, cooking peppers, good-looking peppers. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? 'cause peppers are an interesting breed. An original taste is what we need. Ask any pepper and he'll say, only Dr. Pepper tastes that way. There's carrying peppers, marrying peppers, diet peppers, quiet peppers. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? There's saluting peppers, tooting peppers. I'm a pepper man. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? Being a pepper, dream Dr. Pepper.